Well, it is 6 o'clock on April 17th here in the Hooker Room. Thanks to everybody for coming out for the environmental commission meeting tonight. We've got a nice full group, so let's just go ahead and we'll go around and do roll call.
Gary Albright.
I'm here.
Nadia Kane. Here. Matt Colby.
Here.
Casey Chappelle.
Here.
Adam Whitaker.
Here.
Shannon Dyke.
Here.
Adam Martinez.
Here.
Mitchell Owens absent, and David Parker.
Here.
Good. Well, as you can see on the agenda, an exciting evening of not a whole lot. So we're going to go ahead and go to the next action point. Get ready. Talking through the March minutes. Hopefully you all had a chance to see them. They were in the packet and kind of talk through some of the things that we covered. But before we talk about voting, are there any notes or edits for this past month's minutes?
Very good. I wanted to bring one thing up. Mitchell, he tends to write from this kind of committee. I wasn't sure how best to note that on the minutes. I just counted him as in person, but I wasn't sure since he's not here that we follow the rule.
Yeah, I think in person is fine for like the attendance. For if he misses any votes, I typically don't do anything because he doesn't like state like the abstention. So I usually don't say anything, but I mean,
That's a good question. Just like where do you put it? If you put it anywhere, do you know that he wasn't here for the vote or whatever? Yeah, fair question.
I move that we approve March minutes.
I think Dave got a second and a little bit before Shannon.
It's a race.
Nadia Kane. Yeah. Matt Colby.
Yes.
Casey Chappelle.
Yeah.
Adam Whitaker.
Yes.
Shannon Dyke.
Yes.
Adam Martinez.
Yes.
David Parker.
Yes.
Gary Albright.
Yeah.
Motion passes.
Thank you so much. And Zoe, thanks for taking the minute. You're doing a great job. Is there anyone in our Zoom attending tonight?
There's not.
Well, all right. And I don't believe we have any members of the public lurking in the wings. And so make yourself known. No? Okay. Great. Okay. Well, I'm glad we're all here together to talk about the new business. There is none. So that's all right. Again, Rachel always sends out a request for any agenda items. So if there's anything that you want us to cover, new business is basically something that we have not already had in the works or that's not already been brought to the EC. So feel free, even if it's just an idea or a question or something you want to just highlight, it's absolutely fine to reach out, share that with Rachel, and she'll add it to the agenda for next month. But having said that, let's just bust into the old business. So we start with the working group updates, and you know, I know that we talked a little bit about them, so feel free to elaborate more on your working group if you'd like to. Any updates on meetings or conversations or things that are kind of in the trail.
We are still kind of looking easy. Hopefully, something that
Yeah. Do you all have a timing for kind of when you do your meetings or anything like that? Okay.
Yeah, we straight up put it on hold until we go hear us find us.
Fair enough. So Mitchell knew he wasn't going to be here, so he sent through an email. And Rachel, I don't know if you've got that handy, but I can pull that up as well.
Yeah, I can start off. If I miss anything, feel free to pass on. Mitchell said no water quality working group update this month. He's going to email Liz and Evelyn from CBU to see how the water quality sampling and planning is going. And I believe Evelyn will probably be wrapping up her academic year and probably taking the summer off and going and coming back in the fall. That's my little tidbit from that in the fall. So the Eagle Marsh file list is on May 31st, and he sent the registration only. I can send that out. I'll send that out while we're talking later. The Clean Community Program Clean Team is having its first meeting soon. I think it's next Friday. Christy Lindbergh from CU has been emailing about when it's scheduled. And I think Mitchell is going to that as well as I am. Let's see. He asked Shannon, who talked about walking the wastelands, but I'll wrap up his last thing first. He had a special project / water quality working group collaboration update. There is a clean community program grant, that is, I think it's due June / September, so sometime this summer. He's encouraging the group to maybe apply to that. Personally, I sent that to CBU as well as our grant coordinator, just to get it on their radar. And he said he works in the same branch as those grant people, so he will pass through them, for some guidance. Anything to add, did I miss anything before I pass it to Shannon?
So just to add to that, Mitchell sent through a link for the grant that he's talking about. And just to kind of use some of the language from the grant itself, it says the funding supports projects that address non-point source pollution, improve water quality across Indiana. Eligible applicants include local governments, nonprofits, universities, and other groups. And that it would be potentially focusing on watershed planning, best management practices, implementation, education, and outreach, or other initiative approaches, or innovative, approaches to reducing non-point source pollution. So it's decently open, and as Rachel said, there are a few other departments within the city that we've kind of talked about being in contact with. So Mitchell and I are going to plan to have a meeting. I'll update on this in a second. But this is kind of a nice merging of the water quality working group, having an initiative, and then the special projects group kind of just helping fuel that a little bit more. Yeah, it looks like the notice of intent is due in early June, and then the application itself is due in early September. Okay. Stuff from Mitch. Moving questions. Oh yeah,
I think that's probably more commissioner announcements.
yeah, I think that's what he intended, but we'll definitely make time. Oh, to the biodiversity.
Yeah.
Can I ask?
Oh, yeah.
So if I'm interested in there are two groups that I'd be interested in working with,
Yeah.
like pollution and biodiversity.
Yes. That's all you have to do. Just
All right.
get the words
Yeah.
out and we will scoop you up. Okay, so. Interesting. Okay. Perfect. All right, so you'll move the numbers are playing and go for it, Shannon.
Okay, so, I don't know much more than you do at this point, based on the email that Rachel sent, other than the fact that Isabel had some questions for us, that I think we can pretty easily clarify, but it sounds like she wants to have a meeting with one of us. Maybe you could clarify this a little bit, Rachel. But there are three questions she had. It looks like she included the thing about the Monarch Pledge, but we're not listed on the national site, how this relates to the Bee City. Was it impacted? Yes, okay. And then also clarity on whether it's for city owned land or residents. So you will remember that almost all of this language is what the city provides us. And I went ahead and edited some of it for the first draft because I wasn't sure about the fee structure and things like that. She has some questions about that too, which I think we need to sort through. I haven't had the time to reach out to the Xerxes Foundation, which I really want to do, because I think Isabel's biggest concern is also my biggest concern. It's like, what do we really get out of this other than the affiliation? I will say that I got my first email from Bee City today. I think I got it because I'm on the university's Bee Campus committee as well. And they're now an official, they've been welcomed as an official Bee Campus as of this month. So they're on there, but and I know we were trying to do this in tandem with them, but it sounds like we're going to need to set up a meeting to talk through some of these things. But before we do that, I'm not sure who should do that.
She specifically wants to talk to one person?
She wants a meeting between a representative from the EC, me, Parks, Council Legal, City Legal, and herself. So I recommend just one person from the EC so we don't have to make it a public meeting, as well as coordinate an initial person schedule.
we should be sure that. Yeah, we can sort of talk about who that should be. But before we have that meeting, I would like to see if I can get a little bit more information. Like I said, I spent a lot of time early in the process going through the foundation that runs BCity USA's website, trying to get financial information, basically, that there's a pretty substantial application and renewal fee, which is it's like $20 per year. And I think Isabel has some questions about how that's going to be paid. And it's not clear really where that goes or what we get from that. So I was looking for financial reports, but it wasn't in there. So I need to try to figure that out before we schedule a meeting, but maybe we could try to, I mean, do you want to meet or should I meet
with
all those people?
It doesn't matter to me. I mean,
I'm not sure.
yeah, I mean, I love that you've been leading the charge so much on this, so I'm happy for it to be you, but if it feels like, I know that you also keep quite busy, so if that feels like a factor to include, then we can talk about that, but I think you'd be.
Well, I wonder if there's anyone who's like really like excited about that. I feel like I'm sort of picking up Corinna's project and trying to see it through for Corinna, and I think it'd be great if we could be a B-City, but it is not clear to me if it's worth the cost of it.
Yeah. I know that especially like moving into the next couple of months, schedules pick up a lot, but is it worthwhile to sit down and like meet with the biodiversity working group to kind of solidify like what will we say, what do we know, do we need to delegate out some of the communication, with Xerxes or whoever.
I'm willing to be the representative at that meeting. I'm also curious about the same thing you are. I want to know what Xerxes does with the money so that we can make a case for why it's worth doing.
Yeah, and I feel it goes beyond or might enhance what the city is already doing, which seems to be pretty much everything they want us to do. So that's all the update is that we need to.
Okay. So this repeating what I think I heard, biodiversity group wants to meet prior to meeting with city staff and council, and then that will be the representative at the kind of the ultimate.
Unless you.
Or we can decide. Okay.
Yeah.
I will say, this is just another small thing, is a month or so ago when I tried to fill out the initial online forms, it said Bloomington was already, well, it wouldn't let me complete the forms because the city was like not an exception city. So I need to get them, it sounds like we're already in there or something. So I actually need to talk to some. I tried it 3 or 4 times and never touched.
Well,
But we're not listed.
while we're all together, do you want to, since we don't have to set a separate meeting for this conversation that we're currently in, do you want to talk through, like, do you want other people to help pursue something? Send an email to or like, do you want us to do anything right now or sign up any, we can start running down that road, so that it's not all on you between now and whenever the biodiversity group meets?
No, I think I have a little bit of time. And we can meet. I can do some preliminary stuff. If any of you want to look into the sites and the foundation, try to find what I couldn't find. That would be great. I mean, the organization seems great. It's just that there's no transparency, which binds me.
Can you confirm for Adam and our next the URL that we should go to that will like take us down there, which is BCity USA? New Adam,
Yeah.
New to biodiversity work group, Adam and Adam secretary.
BCityUSA.
Okay. And then, and it's okay for you to email to say, when do you want to get together and have a meeting? Like you can reach out to the group. To do that.
Logistical things like that can be discussed over email, like so, yeah, that can be discussed.
But the content.
Yes, the actual information like sharing over email is not allowed, but scheduling.
So we can set a time and we can tell you and you can.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I do have to post it at least 48 hours, business hours in advance. So if it's the meeting on a Tuesday, I need to post it by Friday.
Okay, well, that's what happened.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Anything else with BCity? Okay.
And did Isabel have a specific date that she was?
No, she said she was pretty flexible. since there's so many city staff involved, I think it would probably, I think evenings would be hard. I can certainly inquire if other city staff are willing to meet at like 5 or 6 or something. But Isabel doesn't hold like, sheriff's office hours for her council duties, so she said she would be flexible. And I think Matt had an update with biodiversity too.
The habitat connectivity map, we got kind of a preview. When you land on the page, this is where you could click take the habitat connectivity pledge and you could put in your info.
So you can put in a location or drop a pin.
If you opted to skip that box, you would just go like map. Map by default shows the existing pledges, priority green space areas, which is old. It's based on what we had in the original one. So if you really zoom in, you might see an area that's trees, but really it's a big apartment complex on some of those. But I still think it's useful. And also potential corridor links in the blue, which also is drawn from our original map. There are other layers you can turn on and off that are pretty fun. You can see where streams are, where tree canopy is. I enjoyed the steep slopes one. You have to zoom in pretty far to be able to see that, but they have some cool layers available. So I told them before we release it publicly that I would like it to go before the commission so we can gather some input, and then I will meet with them regarding notes or changes if we have them. So
This link is in the packet as well. I know I'm clicking a lot, but it's in the packet. You guys play that one.
yes.
So, I guess this is not the case, but is it possible that when people start to fill in their sites, that it will automatically expand the green, or people have to go back one?
No, that's just an existing layer. When they put in their places, it's going to put that orange diamond guy in. Oh yeah, it puts it in. And you can zoom in really far. You can put it straight on your house, or you can put it on the street if you're worried about someone knowing exactly where you are.
I guess what I was asking was, it'd be wonderful if the map were to adapt so you could actually see the corridor forming with more green.
In a way, we
I
will
know
see
we-
orange corridors, which is
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
it's still kind of cool. I don't know if people got a chance to look at this before today, but do we have any feedback? What we like, what we don't like.
So can you describe what the blue and the green are?
Yes, so the green was based on an EC study a while ago. I want to say somewhere like 07 to 11 type of range, but they were identifying priority green space within city limits. And to do that, they were mostly, they looked at sensitive environmental features, and they listed like 9, the steep slopes, tree canopy, karst features, a whole bunch of things. And if it had 4 or more of those 9 things, they kind of plotted it on GIS, and then they kind of identified these were the 3 priority areas. So when we were discussing fighting fragmentation and trying to connect them, whether that's with islands or corridors or whatever we can do, because some of it's obviously pretty developed land, we were obviously anything we get is good, but we were looking especially to bridge those 3 main areas.
So what is the green?
The green is the areas that had above a certain threshold of the sensitive environmental features. So those are already the more vulnerable, but also probably biodiverse places.
Does it describe that on the page anywhere?
I was just looking for that too. So there's like a legend where. Yeah, so those are going to be
Oh, there you go. Okay.
kind of categorize this visually, but as far as,
We could release it with any amount of information that we want.
Yeah.
Basically, all that information comes from the Habitat Connectivity Plan, which is on our website under reports. It was done in 2017. And there's a lot of maps and explanations of how they determined where these areas were and what their recommendations were, as far as connectivity. It's a pretty easy read, but I don't think most people are gonna wanna hop in and look at a 20-page document. But we can release any amount of info, either electronically when we make this public, or have however much of it we feel is necessary on pamphlets when we table and direct people to it by, say, a QR code or something. But that is what those spaces are. And so it's evolving a little bit. I mean, the one in the lower left, a chunk of the middle of that is going to be the Sudbury development. So it's not gonna, I mean, it's still gonna be contiguous, but it's gonna be different.
So when you're describing habitat connectivity, are you thinking of animals using the habitat?
All life. So yeah, pollinators, or deer or what have you.
Okay.
The idea is that when we connect these areas, all of the wildlife can be healthier because they have access to more, they compete more. It just improves biodiversity and honestly, resilience. I mean, you're less likely to have a really bad decline in something if areas are connected, because then there's places you can travel to or escape to rather than be stuck as your area is. So when they put in the potential corridor spots, you can see that we're really trying to connect the riffy one at the top with the lower left. I know there's a lot of mostly residential between those places, so it's not like you could actually put, woods from one end to the other. But there's a lot of things residents can do to make, at the very least, islands, so it's easier for a bird or a butterfly or anything else to easily travel from one area to the other. Some of the others are closer to each other, so it'd be easier to do between some of the others. And the reasons that some of the potential corridor links appear outside of those three areas is that a lot of the area outside of city limits, which we did not put the big green layer on, is also green space. So we connected to something that we can't quite see.
I know that when we talked to when I talked to the council last year, just about what we were up to, a couple of the questions they had were a little bit clearer understanding of what we're looking at here. So even the fact that we have the legend is great, but the fact that you have to know the information and then go over to the FAQs, and then within the FAQs, there's not a ton of detail. I would say that for usability, for the feedback for this functionality, I would say that's probably one of the biggest ones that I think people would just look at and say, I don't know what this is. And green, it means priority green space area. I don't know what that means. Potential corridor link, I don't know what that. So I think that including some of that really just easily accessible language somewhere within this page or within, the very main piece of information or something like that. Would be
go right in the legend.
I think it would be easy to beef up the FAQ or to put a little more information on the Habitat Pledge tab. I think there's plenty of options, not directly on the map there for making that clearer.
And even here, so when you go to the information, you get directed to resources first, which the FAQ, to be honest, I didn't even see it the first time I looked at this, but that doesn't mean that it's not valuable there. But just thinking for the resources, maybe I know that a lot of information you shared is in the resource links. Maybe we just put more language around that. Maybe we beef up this language a little bit more.
Easy to
Would
do.
you like one page where it's FAQ and resources, and it just has the data definitions, and then maybe your resource buttons at the bottom, just so you don't have to click an extra button.
For me, that would feel a little bit easier, but I don't know if other people think.
Either way is fine. I mean, I'm a little concerned that if it's one, that it might be a lot of scrolling, especially if we're going to include a paragraph that either says background or summary or whatever it is to provide more of this information. But that doesn't mean one page wouldn't work. I'm slightly concerned about people's scrolling or reading fatigue. When I'm just be that's a bunch of info. I'm going to go back to the map.
I know it's Do you want the page that's really, really overloaded, or do you want people to have to be figuring out where they're trying to find the thing and eventually get, it's like,
Yeah.
there's no good way when we've got so much we want to share with folks, it's definitely.
Would you like the FAQ page to come up first, though? Is that something you're hearing?
I think when it comes to elaborating on the legend, if the legend itself doesn't have more language, I think that would be helpful to have that be the first thing of information.
That's a shame.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. So I just went and tried to enter, well, I think I entered my house, so it's not awkward yet. is
It's
it?
just not live.
Okay, it's like.
I did.
Okay, I'm like, nothing is happening here, but you have to enter your information before you really know what you're doing or what the thing, what things signify. And so I think that it would be useful if you had something you would read first. That tells you what you're doing
Yeah,
and what, yeah.
because you can go to these places and then click back on the Habitat Connectivity Pledge and then enter it, but I do see what you're saying. Something on the landing explaining.
Yeah, and then once you get like onto the page that has a little more information, I think it's hard to get back.
What is that? What's this? Is it water? There's not a river.
The blue ones are just their
No.
potential corridor lines.
See this line here?
Oh, no, they just happen to be up against each other.
That
It looks like a road.
Campus River. And where it's from, this close to it.
It's a train
Yeah.
tracks.
Yeah, they on what it is, which one.
Oh, no.
Yeah, just so happens that for
Yeah.
visibility sake, the light blue potential corridor links are surrounded by a line, and when you zoom out enough, those look like they're all continuous line.
So are any of the potential corridor links on city property?
I don't know. I looked at this a fair amount in the last couple weeks, but I didn't kind of look everywhere.
I wonder if we could identify potential places to advocate.
And so, my note, I think it's really cool that they replicated everything we had on our kind of uglier initial connectivity map. But my kind of bold suggestion, along with an apology for wasted work, would be, I think I'd like the map without potential corridor links. I think if we explain it properly in the text, it'll be intuitive that you're trying to combine the green areas. So the highest priority ones are between green areas. I think if you turn the potential corridor links off, the map is easier to understand. And I also like looking at it with tree canopy on as well, though no one has to. But I thought this was a cool illustration, especially as you zoom in to see, you know, some of the places that are real deserts and others where you say, oh, okay, this is, you know, a little more connected than we thought. As long as we're encouraging natives and removing invasives in this area, you know, we could really realize a corridor here. And I think as it fills in with the orange dots, that's exactly what we'll be seeing, is that, you know, anywhere that they're done is awesome, but ones that are directly between two of the main green space areas, it'd feel really cool to see bridges essentially being built by people's contributions. Yes.
Regarding like clarity of this, I feel like because I'm assuming I'm not a GIS expert by any means, but with the system, we could just start with the legend tab. Because I think that would give an introduction to like what is exactly going on and include the definitions that are in the FAQ and have them like open to that.
That's reasonable.
And then it's like, as opposed to like layers, then legend, have it legend, and then layers. So they click, and then they, once they understand it, they can modify what they're looking at with the layer.
So the legend only shows what you've selected from the layers. I wonder if we can like.
I wonder if that can be
Start with
added.
All of them.
Yeah.
Start with everything.
Or if it's,
That might be really overwhelming.
it might be a lot.
Yeah.
But I like your idea though.
I feel like
On
there's
the flip
like
side,
you could
though,
have it.
If it has just priority green space areas and community pledges on the legend, that leaves room right under priority green space areas to explain what that means.
Yeah.
So if you were to click back on the legend tab here without having other things turned on, there could be a little paragraph under priority green space areas And so now they're seeing, oh, okay, these are the user submitted points. This is a
Yeah.
priority green space area. This is what that means. And then they click the next tab to the layers and they,
I think having like a one sentence description of what that is on a legend would be like more than sufficient.
Yeah. One of the things that, the other thing that came up from council was knowing what to do, knowing what they should contribute, knowing what would be helpful for them to contribute. And I know that we have in the habitat connectivity documents, we have some suggestions of what it means, like native plants, things like that. In this interface, I wonder if there is a place, and maybe it's in, the FAQs currently just have the data definitions and that's all. So depending on if we are adding all those other links, it may be worthwhile to have an FAQ that's like, where do I start using this map? Or like, what do I do to create to add my details? But like actually have a couple of places where the question is the user going, this is cool, I don't know what to do, or I have something, is it the kind of thing I should put in here? Where there are a lot of questions about people having the confidence to know what to put in this. So if we can somehow put that within the first couple of places somebody might click or read, that may help people feel like, oh, I put in a whatever, I put in a
Yeah.
native tree, or I put in
I removed the calorie there and
Yeah.
planted a dark cherry in its place. Even a small thing is great.
Something that might be, to make any changes, we have to go through the ITS department. Like if we wanted to do, I'm just throwing this idea out here. If we wanted to make like kind of an introductory page, wherever this is linked on the environmental website, I can change the website directly. So we can always add instructions there and then like, I can quickly make a change rather than having to go through another department, make that request. So just
Okay.
kind of throwing that idea out there too, so then like, it just kind of speed things up and never be having to change, just for information.
I think you could have it open to the legend page just
Mhm.
by using.
Mhm. Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you shut the tab, it'll change the URL.
Yeah.
Well, there's,
Yeah,
So we could like, I could add this link to just the main page, so it opens up to this, in addition to whatever,
oh, so we don't actually have to switch in places. We just
Yeah.
make this where it lands.
yeah.
Yeah, so I think my suggestion, depending on how people feel about it, would be maybe removing potential border links altogether. And another thing that I think would be cool if it's not too much of a strain is if the city would start with orange diamonds in places that are like city parks. So we kind of had like, so Bryan Park doesn't look empty. So you could put one there and say, this is a certified arboretum. We have hundreds of native trees and we regularly fight invasives. It doesn't have to be like a book.
Can you read the notes that are added as orange diamonds? For example, like
Yeah.
Bryan Park being able to say.
Yes, you can.
Okay.
So,
We wanted to leave like relatively like limited data public in case somebody just wants to mess around and have
Right.
negative comments, but, there is.
We person there would it often depend if about having people and do things like. People want to mark things that are looking.
doesn't hurt. Because it basically is just, it's kind of a running start. People don't appear at a blank map. They already see some of the things that they can't control because they're not private land.
That's a great idea. So how are you, I can see this encouraging people to contribute so they can put their thing on the map. How will this be promoted?
Not sure. At the very least, we'd be pushing it every time we table. We would probably try presenting it to council again, just so it ends up kind of on public record there. But outside of that, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the city would send something out.
Is there a possibility to do a press release?
Yeah,
Okay.
and our department had, not for necessarily environmental things, but more transportation related items, our department had like a lot of success with doing pop-ups, just like don't necessarily announce it, just around town, at certain like parks. just doing kind of public outreach and getting feedback there and encouraging
Mm-hmm.
people.
Because I think the more you look at it and see them starting to connect, or the more, you add your property and you convince your neighbor or your brother or somebody to add their property, the more it fills out, the more you feel like you're a part of the difference. So like, I think this has the potential to be a powerful tool. And their map is a lot nicer than what we're trying to look for.
How would you feel about, I'm just looking at the website and just kind of thinking about how we can change our web pages pretty easily, but changing this would be a bigger ask. Thinking about what can people do to take action? I was just looking through some of the links that are on the Habitat Connectivity page, and they're mostly general comments like connect isolated areas of habitat by producing green space corridors. And like, it's about the initiative. Just skimming through, I think it would be super helpful if we actually included like, what can you do to participate in this habitat connectivity plan? And I know we have lots of brochures that are like, the things that we table with and stuff like that, but I'm wondering if we could convert some of that into just like language on this landing page, because I assume we'll be sending people through
The
that.
report was making recommendations to the city, whereas we're now talking about making recommendations to everyone.
Yeah,
So it's mostly number 4, enhance habitat quality, and then maybe a note about anything helps, even if you're in an apartment, if you have a window box of flowers that includes natives, like that is helping.
yeah. And I
So it
think,
doesn't have to be a lot of detail.
yeah, and I think that just sample ideas of what people can do and thinking through who we have, where it's like people who go in their house for 50 years and probably done a lot of great stuff. People who live there for 3 months, they're going to move in a few months and have a rental. Can they do anything? Like that sort of thing, I think might be really helpful. So maybe we think about what we can add to the web page that would be an easy place to kind of like, need some ideas, come over here, and then go back to the map and fill it out.
And I would recommend like any QR codes direct to like this page, and then they can click it on. And I can, like whenever I the Bloomington Habitat connectivity map, I can use dot legend URL for the which is more clear.
So, like you said, the things on our website are pretty easy to adjust. What notes do we want when I meet with the JS people again on the map page itself?
Yes, people.
I've kind of taken notes over everything. I'm sure Adam has too, so we can walk through just what we talked about, see what Megan thinks is possible.
Is there a possibility to differentiate between pledges that citizens are doing and like locations like Bryan Park in town?
Like the diamond would be different.
Yeah, like the
colors.
diamond being a different color, just so we can like see the difference between like what's already an established green space as opposed to like what people are entering now.
Yeah,
I think that would be really
I was kind of thinking about that too.
Yeah.
Like if the diamond was yellow instead of orange, or
Yeah,
something that
yeah.
slightly differentiates
Yeah.
when you're zooming around, especially close to your own home, that you take note of that. But when you're zoomed out and a whole bunch of people are participating, they'll all probably run together. But
Yeah.
that might be neat.
Yeah, I know, like, I'm pretty sure, I should say now, I'm pretty sure that, the GIS team has, like, where the right of where public property is versus like non-public property. So I think there could be some sort of like formula to help. So then like the person taking the survey doesn't have to differentiate that, just like it's an automatic technology change.
Well, if you tinker with it at home and have more notes, email Rachel, because I'm assuming you'll be on that meeting with me
Yep.
when we do. Thank you, everybody.
Any other thoughts or questions for Matt before we move on? Okay. You can, email the group as you experiment with it more. And this is not live, so you can't yet add new things, right?
Correct. I mean, you can go through all the motions. Like I did type one up, and it sounds like Shannon just did too, but it won't appear on the map because they aren't processing it while we play with it right now.
Do you know if it will get processed at some point though?
I do not,
Okay.
but I mean, it'll take a minute to do, like to re-enter what it did, so I'm not worried about it.
Okay. As far as the habitat connectivity plan page on the website, are you interested in having people like offer to put some text together that could go on that page or anything like that? While we're all here and we don't have to set a separate meeting to have this conversation
If
here.
anybody, especially someone in biodiversity, wants to consider what we have on this page, that would be awesome. I'm gonna currently focus on the map part right now, but that would help us get ahead in general if somebody wanted to volunteer or multiple somebodies to consider that in advance here.
Okay, I'll put some ideas together and then I can bring them to our next monthly meeting to talk through, or if we had a separate meeting about the tech.
Sounds good?
Great. I'll probably base it on like the pamphlets and brochures that we have, and then maybe just one interesting thing that crossed my mind and we can veto as we need to. Okay. Great. And then the special projects, like I said, this is very potentially going to be focusing on the water quality working group grant opportunity that Mitchell sent through. And I asked Mitchell if he is going to be around to set a meeting for anybody who might be interested in helping brainstorm on what this might look like. We've talked about, incorporating maybe a member of utilities or the clean, oh, what is it?
Clean communities.
Yes. Yeah, but there are a couple of groups that this would probably be a good fit for us to collaborate with. So Thursday, Friday are probably best for, let's what the week through. Okay, so potentially meeting the week of May 5th, maybe May 8th or May 9th, which is the Thursday or Friday. So that is probably when Mitchell and I will set a meeting to talk about this water quality group. Is there anybody who would like to participate in that group that would like to share their availability? May 8th or May 9th? You want to be there? Awesome. Does either Friday or Thursday or Friday work better for you? Probably Thursday. Okay. I know we have this handy Thursday 6 o'clock thing that happens once a month that like I'm always finding myself having. I think Thursdays at 6 available. Okay. So I'm gonna potentially, for now at least, maybe put a soft hold on May 8th at 6 p.m.
Would you like the room we met in the last time, the Kelly room, or would you like the Tucker room?
Oh, either one,
The coffee's
Rachel.
not available, so which is fine.
I probably this room. I feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Better. Would anybody else like to be in on a potential water quality grant special projects working group meeting? Steve? Nice. Do you know if that Thursday, May 8th at 6 p.m. would work for you? Okay, well, I'll put you on the invite list. Thanks. That's exciting. Okay, so Dave. Awesome. Thanks, y'all.
Would you like me to see if Liz can join, or would you like to keep that internal for now?
That's a great question.
And what do you think about it?
Yeah, that yeah, maybe.
Okay. I'll see if she's available.
Okay, let's plan to have a meeting either way, but if she's available, that'd be, yeah, might as well just kind of hit the ground running for that. And then Dave and Casey, I can send you the link that, or Rachel can forward the link that Mitchell sent through that gives you a little bit more detail on what the grant is. Great. Okay. Next is Eco Heroes.
So before we get too far with it, I
Oh,
want to
yeah.
earlier. These are all of the cards to the insurance. So I was thinking, there's nothing inside the cards right now. So if you have a special message for everyone, feel free to write. And then most of you came by the judge. I'm happy to show pictures of what, they aren't great pictures, I just have the pictures, but I'm happy to show pictures of like what each person did, whatever works best. So I will start with Nadia, if you just want to like sign it and pick up a new one and pass them around. And have a couple of extra markers too. And we'll put like prizes inside the card.
Okay, thanks for coordinating that. Yeah, thanks for everybody who weighed in on the entries. And yeah, it was nice. We had a little bit of a last minute extension and it worked out pretty well because we had submissions for each of the different categories, which was nice. So a couple of quick notes. The decision was made to have the event indoors moving forward, just because the weather's not looking super great. And the note that we got from one of the coordinators was Earth Day 2025 will be moved indoors into the pavilion due to the rain forecast. You can expect the same event structure. So tables and chairs are provided. We need to get there between 11 and 11:30. You know, depending on if it's raining, they've got folks who can potentially help move things inside. I don't think it'll be too intense for our group though. Let's see. The pavilion, when it's full of people, it can get a little warm and noisy. So if you are planning to be there, just know it might be a little intense, but should be a good time. And then the event activities are all going to stay the same except for the e-scooter, e-bike test rides. They're not going to do that because of the rain. But we have a couple different spots for volunteers who can hang out at the table. We've got a few different things that I'm going to pass this to you all and then I'll grab it.
Is this Saturday?
Yep, it's this Saturday. And it's setting up between 11 and 11:30. And then there's a couple different things happening throughout the day. And then it will wrap at 4 o'clock. It will turn on at 4. But before I get into the details of the day, we didn't have a ton of submissions. Not a huge surprise. It's kind of a weird year. I feel like people have a lot going on. But we did have some really nice entries. And we've got some great donations from folks. To give them as prizes, and we received some just this financial sponsorship as well, which is really helpful. So we've got some cute things coming through, but we knew that we may end up having more prizes than we necessarily had applicants for, and so Nadia came up with an idea, and our group kind of talked through what we might do to have people potentially be able to win leftover prizes if we have them, or just kind of engage a little bit. So I don't know if one of you kind of wants to describe what we came up with, but.
Yeah,
Have a good time.
I came up with the idea of having people decorate tote bags in like a bug theme, ideally. And then I think we went with if they do decorate a tote bag in a bug theme, they can put their email down and be entered in like a lottery system for the prizes. Is that what we're sticking with? Yeah. So that should be fun. And then we can just easily like randomize winners in Excel and email people to come pick up their things from City Hall. So that'll ensure that people who participate get the prizes and we get through all the prizes.
Oh, go ahead.
If there are pictures of tote bags that you would like to be posted on socials next week, feel free to pass it along.
Do you know if we need to have a release for the photo of the tote bag, if we did that?
Oh,
If they're personally created art?
I am not sure. It's a public event, so we're not receiving anything. So I'm not sure. I would encourage keeping kids' faces out of it.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So we've got a couple things that are happening during the daytime. So the whole thing starts at noon. Busman's Holiday Place. There's an opening address from the public engagement director, from city council and county council, and a poetry reading. And then at 12:30, Busman's Holiday Place for a little bit. At 1:30 is when we announce the winners. And I'm not totally sure if a lot of the winners will be there yet. So it may also just be like an acknowledgement of this is important and thanks for participating. You go make a tote.
Several of ours RSVP.
Yes, I've been including Nat on the RSVPs. Most of them will be in attendance. I haven't heard from 2 people and only 1 person has said no, absolutely. So, yeah, should be a good attendance roughly.
Great. We have a half hour for that, but I suspect it may not take quite that long. And then after that, we're just hanging out at the table, helping people make totes. I'll comment about making an insect-related, native species related
tote bag when we're doing the acknowledgement of all the winners. And so hopefully the table will have some activity then.
Make sure that you say for a chance to win
Okay.
prizes.
If, I don't know if this changes anything, the Earth Day will also be doing some sort of raffle. And I think they're announcing it at either 3:30 or 3:50, but the person has to be there to win.
Ooh.
So,
Actually, it was an e-bike.
Yeah.
Failed.
I think, yeah, I don't think the e-bike worked out last year. Different story. But maybe differentiate that
Yeah.
multiple raffles going on.
It's funny because I was actually looking at the series of things that are happening. Westman's Holiday plays after us, but then there's a Parks and Rec volunteer award ceremony. Then there is the Zero in Bloomington Spring into Sustainability Challenge award ceremony. And then there's the Earth Day raffle prize drawing. So basically lots of stuff, lots of people being recognized. There's gonna be a lot of things going on. So yeah, I'll make sure to be very clear exactly what our option is for people to participate in. But having said that, I was thinking that what would be helpful is to have potentially 2 people who can come sometime between 11 and 11:30 to set things up. And then stick around to like 1:45. That's basically just after our award ceremony. And then have a couple people that are there from like 1:30 to 3:30. So they're there for the ceremony and then just there for a couple of hours. And then have at least one person who's there between like 3:30 and 4 to do the tear down part of it. I'll be there in the middle part either way. So if we get to be in a little pinch, I'll be around. But wanted to see if there's anybody who felt like being part of the EC table from 11:30 to 1:45 or 1:30 to 3:30.
I would love to be there. I'm traveling. Next year, I'll be there.
Awesome.
I'll make sure to keep the date.
Okay, perfect.
I can do the first.
Okay, like the
11,
setup and hang.
45 to 1:30, whatever it is.
Awesome.
I can do latter.
Okay. Thank you.
That's the whole time then.
Mhm.
So I have something that ends at noon and then something that begins at 3:30. So I can do.
Perfect. Well, it does put you right in the middle. Yeah, if you don't mind coming in between the other things that you've got, that'd be.
Yeah, like a good hour and a half.
So it's 1:30 to 3.
Yeah.
Is that the middle time?
Yeah.
Because I'm tabling for utilities, so
Okay.
I'm gonna help them set up, and
Okay.
then I can come over and then help utilities tear down, so I can be there.
Okay. Kind of
1:30 to 3, I think.
Okay, yep,
Do
that's
that.
great. Okay. Mhm. So Adam, I'm gonna put you, if you're cool with it, on the first half, like during the setup and hang around, and then if you're down to take photos, assuming that we do some photos, that'd be really. Okay, and then I'll plan on being there in the middle, and then I might go home for a minute and then come back, and I can definitely put the tear down part of it. Okay, great. Having said that, and that's kind of the last thing that I was officially going to speak to. For the folks that are going to be volunteering, maybe after we wrap, we can kind of just have like a little check-in on like what stuff needs to be anywhere, what stuff will be there, that kind of thing. But unless there's other things that you all wanted to share about the eco stuff, I can just zip through it.
I have a couple of things. Let's see
great.
if I can manage the caption as well as. Let me try to do it. Google Slides is a little bit different than.
A lot of margins.
Yes.
Production.
Okay. I'm going to turn, does anybody have any qualms with hiding captions momentarily? Okay.
There's no.
Eco Heroes is set up, or just all of the set up on tables 22. So right now, all of the Eco Heroes, such the submission, all the Eco Hero submissions are in this office, so it should be pretty easy to set up. I told the Earth Day organizers that these 2 tables at the southern end of the building will be the Eco Hero display. So the craft table and chairs will be at the order table. That sounds okay with everybody? Okay, just wanted to let you know where you're going to be going. So, right here is the entrance. Here's the meeting to the right.
This is the building next to Switcher.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
off Rogers.
And what's the date again? Yeah, but April? I thought,
Oh, interesting.
I thought in May.
Maybe it's from today's
No,
meeting, 4/17/2020.
oh yeah, we talked about it today.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Moment to moment.
The actual date was May 19th.
No,
Yeah,
April 19th.
Yeah.
yeah,
no,
This,
it's this Saturday.
This Saturday.
April 19th, yeah, it is on the 19th, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I have requirements also.
Okay. And then I wanted to let you know that we did have some more bug bingo from the Bug Fest. So we had some, I packed it in the tote.
Awesome.
I thought it was very fitting.
Yeah,
Um,
that's perfect.
And then we can talk more logistics in a bit.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, Nadia, I think it was Nadia's idea about ordering like bug stencils and things like that. So if people are doing their tote bags, just kind of lean into the insects, lean into the, kind of carrying the theme with you all year long. Great. Well, thanks everybody who's helped with that whole process. It has been quite a ride this year. I'm excited for next year when this is all something that we can anticipate and plan for and have a nice long runway, but I really do appreciate everybody coming in so clutch when we really just need to move fast. Great.
Okay, slip out.
Yeah.
Can I make a commissioner announcement? Do I have to move to do that?
It's, you know what, actually, it's at the same time as the Eco Heroes thing,
It
right?
sort of is.
Well, then why don't you just fold it into the Eco Heroes conversation?
Just a quick note, so earlier that day, if it's not raining, if you want to join us, I've convinced Mitchell to join this series of walking excursions that a project I'm heading up is running called Walking the Wastelands, that's exploring Bloomington and southern Indiana's wastelands and remediated wastelands. We're starting at Switcher Park, and Mitchell's going to, we're always going to have a sort of scientist or geographer, in this case, and an artist or a humanist here leading the group. And the idea is that they'll tell the story of the place, or the place that we can't see anymore, especially some of the Switchyard, which very toxic, it's been remediated, but it's still based on that. And then the artist or humanist will lead those involved in some art projects with the idea that over the course of the next 6 months, we're going to collect submissions and curate a digital exhibition on the Southern Indiana wasteland creative responses to them. For kids and students and anyone else to come. So I'll just leave this here. Starts at 10:30. If the weather, if it's going to be canceled, but it's not good because there's clay in the arch.
Is this, do you say it's recurring like every 4 weeks or something like, is that the plan?
So this is the pilot one, and so depending on how it goes, we're going to do one at Lake Monroe, hopefully a rewilding quarry, bean blossom bottoms. We might do another one, Switchyard, depending, and it'll be rescheduled if it's rained out. But yeah, there'll be a series of them, and then there'll be like I said, an online exhibition where you can explore art and poetry and people creating music and films based on it as well. So yeah, so it's just the first go. But Mitchell has very generously agreed to be one of the experts. So.
That's great.
Is the IU link updated? It doesn't have a date, but it does say walking the wastelands at Switcher Park, Lake Monroe, Boston, and
No, I need to update that webpage. So it is the environmental futures. And that's the
Yes.
amenities webpage. That
If I could, it'll be on like that website once the website's updated though, it's the same link.
yes.
Okay.
And there'll be more information there for the next ones. But
I'll also include that in the link page that I'm sending out.
and I'm sorry I have to leave.
Yeah.
We still have a forum for.
Yes.
Thanks so much, Shannon. Really appreciate it. All right, see you on Saturday. All right, well, as we then wrap up the Eco Heroes conversation, we can move on to the handbook update, which I know was in the packet, but Rachel, I'll pass it to you.
Yeah, I changed very minor things. I'm sorry if this makes anybody busy and Zoom here. let's see, I kept the track change, I kept a track changes document in the packet as well as a kind of a clean document that didn't have any changes on it, or just incorporated changes. And a few changes that I received recommendations for. I highlighted them. There's one, so, last week, last meeting, Matt reminded me to, kind of tone down the language of must and will to encourage, to use a standardized template, because not all things, make sense for a standardized template. And I added a blurb about accessibility guidelines are available. The other change is I added a blurb about the history of the EC. We acknowledge that it'll be a different document, but having maybe just a small blurb about how there is a different document could be incorporated. I think those are the only two changes. And then I included kind of the cleaning handbook as well.
Any additional comments to Rachel about proposed updates to the handbook?
The clean version looks good.
Yeah, that's good.
Is there a motion to adopt?
How many people do
Motion to adopt the handbook.
motion to adopt the handbook.
Love it. Nice. Nice, nice job.
Okay. Matt Harvey,
Yes.
Casey Chappelle.
Yes.
Adam Pudiker,
Yes.
Shannon Scott, Adam Martinez.
Yes.
David Parkhurst,
Yes.
Carrie Albright,
I vote yes.
Nadia Kane.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, nice job.
I will post that as soon as I'm able.
Thank you for helping make those updates, and yeah, those are really good adjustments for moving forward. All right, now, Rachel, while you've got the mic, I'll go ahead and let you check in. Thankfully, we have more commissioners now than we did a few months ago, so the impending summer vacation period isn't as scary, but I know that we definitely want to make sure that we're all able to attend. If we can't all attend, or the majority can't attend, then we can reschedule.
Yeah, so the third Thursday of June is on Juneteenth, which is a national holiday that the city recognizes. So I wanted to make sure that June 26th, which is fourth Thursday, would work for everyone's schedules, or at least 5 people's schedules.
Of course.
It was the same thing we had on the document at the end of last year when we,
I believe so.
so I thought it was just that and the spring break ones, like just
Yeah.
March and June that were changed. Should be fine.
I can at least do it.
Yep.
All summer. I don't know. It's gonna be happening. So.
I'll be here.
Okay, yep, sounds good.
Great.
So the 26th is the day.
Yes.
Okay.
I changed my standing. time to hold.
For like half a second.
It's the third time we started here.
You could throw something at it to stop the vibrations.
So great.
Okay, well, do we have any reports from any of our committee attendees, such as tree commission or ERA?
Yeah, well, tree commission met for 2 weeks before we did in March, so I've already told you about that meeting. And ERAC met on a cold outside day 8 days ago. We were at Alcott Park and we were near close to there. But it's not on the agenda, but the first 20 to 30 minutes, there was about 3 people, I think, from the biology department that had put together a document about insects at Ricky Park.
You mean I can pass it around?
Oh,
That's very good.
Touch.
and that was pretty neat. it was announced that, again, we will be doing deer browsing for 2 weekends in 2025. Grizzly, I think it was, has a grant that's received for $5,000 for aquatic vegetation control. They mentioned some interpretive signs at Griffey, and they're going to come up with some interpretive signs at Wapahani Park as well. You may know about the outer spatial website. It's got city park information on it. There's going to be a bird tour at RCA Park that'll be described there. And eventually a tree tour at Bryan Park. And, project updates at Gateway, that's done. At Hopewell, there's a ribbon cutting on April 23rd at 4:15. And that's about all the end of my notes. So.
Did you say, is IRAC hosting the bird tour and the tree tours, or is that a different organization that's hosting that?
It's part of the Parks Department.
Parks is, okay.
So an outer spatial.
Oh, great.
So the some highlights from this, they identified 481 insect species, including 3 species of concern. So at Griffey, they did a insect survey.
Is this, do you know if this is linked on?
They will put it on, I think, the Parks Department website. Yeah, and so they collected they surveyed in June, July, and August, so it's really just a subsample of what's actually out there. And so if they were to sample in the spring as well, they would have more species. And they say comparing the number of species, the diversity of insect species to Indiana in general, it's diversity's good, high, and Griffey.
There's nothing to say about Friends of Lake Monroe this time around.
Thanks for the update.
We watched the Migos meeting. They determined who was going to be at their table at the birthday celebration. They talked about utilizing working group funds because they have grants, both working group grants and community grants. They were talking about how it's hard for them to figure out like how to reach people to fund things. So they talked about working with organizations like Canopy Bloomington or anyone else who already kind of have things in place to utilize those funds so that they are used for as much good as they can. They discussed working with Taste of Bloomington to do some kind of food waste and education at the event. And then they also had a little discussion about their bylaw reform. That was pretty much it.
You see Iris, let's see. They talked mostly about tabling at upcoming events such as the Garden Fair last weekend, Earth Day at Blooming Foods, which I think is happening on April 22nd, and then Earth Day at Switchfoot Park this weekend. And then kind of updates on their various initiatives. They talked about the plant sale and various weed wrangles that Fox is putting on. And we talked about that how I'm trying to coordinate NCIRs to give some invasive identification training to various departments.
That's fun. Great. Well, thanks for the updates, y'all. Thanks for taking the time to attend the meetings and watch the meetings and everything. It's really helpful for us to know what's going on and where there are opportunities for us to either work together or just get involved separately. So it's great. I know that we are on the commissioner announcements and we have the one note I've got is for Shannon's Walking the Wastelands. But are there any other commissioner announcements that people would like to share as far as things going on, things we should know, things you want to shout out while we're all together?
I'm going up to Chicago on Tuesday to help promote composting at Wrigley Stadium with the Cubs, or Wrigley Field with the Cubs. That should be cool.
Well, are there others going with you or you just?
Yeah, there's a few people from the organization I run on campus going, and then there's people from other branches of that same organization from Columbus, Ohio, and people up at Purdue going. So that should be cool.
That's really fun. Is it for during a game or is it like to talk to them, outside of the game schedule?
I'm not 100% sure. I think, as far as I'm aware, we're going to actually be standing, like someone from the organization's going to be posted at like their 3 sections trash cans now, because they have like waste, compost, and recycling trash cans now in the field. Yeah. So I think we're going to be standing there and like just making people aware that they can compost. That is an option when they're throwing away things.
You're gonna have some interesting interactions, probably.
I know, yeah.
All day.
It should be I'm sure some people will be like, okay. But it's mostly just about making people aware that that's even an option.
Yeah, and the long game of education and then eventually.
You really hope that it works, but I'm highly skeptical. As someone who spent years changing the trash cans at IU athletic events, so many times I'd pull the recycling bag and there'd just be popcorn in it.
I mean,
People do not care what the bin says.
yeah, we're hopefully, I mean, it's pretty robust. Like the Cubs are working with this organization, so we're gonna like go on the field and like make an announcement and stuff. So hopefully,
Yeah. Oh, great. Other things that people have coming up that would be worth sharing?
No announcement.
All right. Well, then I'm gonna not talk anymore and just say, let's go to the social media post and then we will start wrapping up.
Great, but if there are any posts that you want to have in May, please let me know. Fiona's right now in charge of the Facebook. I suspect that the management may change to someone else in the department as Fiona goes off on summer travels.
I have an idea for potentially engaging social media. I thought maybe we could share. Well, of course I thought it, but we picture like a bird, of course at a feeder or something, and maybe just a brief little blurb about why the bird's important to the local environment, maybe how to attract them, that kind of thing.
Would you be able to give me some verbiage to use?
Yeah, I could send the picture and then just
Great.
a little blurb.
Yes, that'd be great.
Especially now that it's spring and migration's happening, I feel like more people are paying attention to that.
For sure.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, and I know that we talked about kind of once we get into a time when it's a little quieter, doing like something about like featuring commissioners and like talking about like why do you care about this commissioner or what you know why you care about Bloomington's environmental quality or something that's just like a little bit like get to know you, just like a little sticky in that way. So I think now might not be the ideal moment in time, but like in the next few months and maybe just have people thinking about if you were to share a photo of yourself and a little clip about yourself related to the environment, related to the environmental commission, something like that.
And as you kind of look through the brochures for the activity plan, if there's any like phrases that jump out or that you'd like to have like in a social media post, if you could flag those, that'd be great for sure. Same goes for everyone else. If you find yourself in a brochure, if there's anything you'd like to have in post.
And I can't remember, do you know if Fiona has a kind of ongoing schedule for sharing posts from like parks, like thinking about some of the activities that we're about?
So she hasn't been reposting parks, but I did request that parks repost BC stuff. And I asked 2 weeks ago and I asked again once it was extended, he got back with me today. So
Nice.
I did try a couple of times. So if there's, maybe taking that as a cue that a buffer is needed, if there's something with the timeline.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if us sharing things from some of the other commissions or parks or whatever, if that would help get on their radar as well, like we're sharing their event that they're hosting,
Yeah.
that sort of thing, so.
to be transparent, I don't have Facebook, so I don't monitor other
Yeah.
petitions. If there's something that you'd like to have reposted, just shoot me a quick message, and I can send it to whoever's managing the page.
All right. Anything else on the social media front?
I don't think so.
Well, we know that the next meeting coming up is May 15th, so between now and then, hopefully there's some time to get outside and not get rained on and spend some time, being outdoors, but thanks everybody for contributing so much tonight. You didn't eat nearly as much as I was hoping, so it's fine. I will sit here and eat the rest of it myself.
That's a good turn.